Test. 1, 2, 3. Test.
Should I give a 30-second warning yet?
I think so.
As soon as he's ready?
We're good, Mr. Mayor?
I just gave the 30-second.
We'll call this council meeting to order at 6 p.m. I need a motion for the adoption of the minutes, please.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held at City Hall on March 28th, 2022 be adopted as circulated.
Moved by Councillor Knox and seconded by Councillor Buds. All those in favor? And that's carried. Before we move into the business section of our meeting, I have a short presentation. I have some correspondence to share with council and the public. Received this letter last week. Dear Mayor Ferris, the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators, CAMA, Long Service Recognition Awards program recognizes and celebrates the dedication of public service and municipal management of our members, which is a significant priority for our association. These awards are based on the number of years of full-time employment in municipal government in a management capacity. They are granted at 10 years and given in 5-year increments. This year, in your municipality, we acknowledge the commitment of your city manager, Nathan Pito, for his 10 years of municipal service in management capacity. And we ask you to assist us in recognizing Nathan, and that's what we're going to do right now. And I just want to thank Nathan on behalf of our council and our citizens for your service, your dedicated service to our community. It's much appreciated. Now, this might look like we're getting engaged, but thank you very much. I'd like to present you with that pin. We have 2 delegations this evening. Our first delegation is from the Portage Pickleball Club, and delegations will be permitted 5 minutes, and my staff have put me on a timer, so I will be very accurate with the 5 minutes. After the presentation is complete, council will be able to ask questions of the delegation. Would you like to state your name for the record, Shauna Lee?
Shauna Lee Leslie.
The floor is yours.
The Portage Pickleball Club is a vibrant and active group of dedicated volunteers who have seen the club grow over the last 6 years. Pre-pandemic, our club membership was over 80 people. We are currently rebuilding and will surpass that number. We are affiliated with both Pickleball Manitoba and Canada for insurance reasons and to help promote the sport provincially and nationally. Our club is inclusive. We welcome all members regardless of age, ability, race, or gender. Play is round-robin format. All players can interact with each other, which fosters learning and mentoring for new players in a fun environment. Our club believes that both tennis and pickleball can coexist in a newly refurbished multi-sport court facility. Pickleball is Canada's fastest growing sport, and therefore the creation of public permanent pickleball courts in Portage la Prairie will strengthen and diversify the recreational opportunities available for all in our great city. Members play every week all year long. We have played outside at Prosecutor Park, and the residential streets are clogged with vehicles. Our club would like to be included in the court facility on beautiful Island Park with all the amenities and campground close by. We feel this location is ideal. Our club has received quotes on the cost of creating 6 permanent pickleball courts within the existing fencing on the 2 north tennis courts. We are currently fundraising and have raised close to $30,000 from member donations and the business community. We have grant applications into local and national organizations to raise additional funds for the proposed pickleball courts on Island Park. The Portage business community has been overwhelmingly supportive. 35 have been visited, 23 confirmed, and 12 pending. Southport Aerospace and the Portage Fair Board have also supported our cause. As we actively pursue funding opportunities, we appreciate the previous work done by the Portage Tennis Club to refurbish these courts while being fully cognizant that our club does not own the courts, as they are a publicly held facility for all citizens of the city. The Portage Pickleball Club wishes to share the Island Park courts with the Portage Tennis Club. Our club applied and received a participation grant that is solely for the purpose of promoting both pickleball and tennis within the community. Pickleball and Tennis Palooza Festival is an event to showcase both sports with emphasis on promoting these sports to women and girls. We look forward to sitting down with the tennis club to create events to draw newcomers to the facility. Hopefully these events will work to draw more school and youth players to both sports. We hope to include a new sport called spec tennis, which is a hybrid of tennis and pickleball. Many communities in Manitoba and Canada are including permanent pickleball courts within their public recreational asset. They are literally springing up everywhere because demand is so high. Public permanent pickleball courts at Island Park mean that anyone can play. Equipment will be available at Stride Place to be signed out. Our club plans to host tournaments at this site, which will bring in players from Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Western Ontario. Pickleball is now the largest event in the 55-plus Manitoba Games. If Portage was chosen as a game site, these courts would be ideal to run the tournaments. These events will bring visitors to the city who will then eat and stay here as they participate in the sport and support our community. At the national level, Tennis and Pickleball Canada have a very close relationship. The national coaching programs for pickleball are delivered by Tennis Canada, and there are Tennis Canada documents that promote multi-use facilities, both indoor and outdoor, for sports to share facilities within communities that specifically name pickleball as a sport to share court spaces and thus costs. We have players who play both sports.
Perfect. Your time is up, Shirley. Questions from council?
I'm Jim Leslie. I'm the Vice President of the Portage Pickleball Club. Fortunately, Sue, our President, came down with COVID this morning, so that's why Shauna filled in on the system here. So I'm willing to take some questions if anybody has any.
Okay. Councillor Buds?
Yeah, thank you. So with the growing popularity of pickleball in the community, as you mentioned, inclusive nature of pickleball, what assurances can there be made to, anyone that wants to show up that the courts just aren't full of members using it versus somebody that just wants to come and try it? How's the scheduling work is really more the questioning.
We would probably, our plan is to schedule, usually we play early in the morning in the summer, but if anybody comes along and plays, we do not turn anybody away. First of all, anybody usually comes, ends up being a member. So we definitely do not turn anybody away. We've had people come in from other communities, people traveling through from BC that have showed up, and we just let them play. It's a learning experience for us too to have other people here. So if that answers your question.
Thank you.
Councillor Knox?
You may have said this in the presentation, I may have missed. You mentioned that you had a cost for refurbishing the courts. like that somebody gave you? I'm just curious, do you have a cost if you say had to construct from scratch?
No, we did not, but it would be, scratch being a dirt surface is probably, I'll say 300,000 probably would be for the cement and everything.
For all the, like,
For 6 courts. We haven't really gone that far. Our cost to redo it at this point, we're looking at a kind of a minimum of 50,000 is what we've got from people that we've spoke to.
thanks.
Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the presentation. And by the way, for the record, I just want you to know that I certainly support the diversity of recreational opportunities within our city and within our community. I guess just some of the things that kind of have come up in the last while. One is, of course, we know that there's a different sound deterrent to it. I think is one of the big. I'm not sure. Is a big deterrent to some of the maybe closer proximity of houses or people enjoying, and of course, one person's enjoyment can't be overtaken by another person's enjoyment. So there's got to be some separation there. When I look and I've done some diligence in regards to that relationship of it, there's been a number of, I'm going to say, lawsuits and those kind of things where it's affected people across the country. There was one just here a couple of days ago in Victoria City Hall that has come about specifically because of the sound. So I guess my question is how would you address that sound issue initially, and how would you address the complaints if there were complaints that would come up against that due to some of the proximity of some of the residences?
Well, I think where we want to put it is far enough away from anybody that would have any concerns. As far as we're concerned, when we have played at Prosecutor Park, we've never had an incident where somebody has come out and said that this is too loud, quick. We've never had that. We've had incidents of people not happy with our parking, but never with the loudness. Usually the laughter of people playing is louder than the pickleball noise.
Okay. I know there's some diversity on the island in regards to people wanting to walk and, you know, kind of just appreciate the nature and so on. If that sound is around all day, is there anything that you guys can use that can eliminate or deaden the sound? Or, I mean, I've read some tips and tools online, but again, I don't believe everything that's on Google. So,
Well,
have you given that any thought?
Yes, you can put barriers up. We're very cognizant of the area it is. I mean, we could, if things go right, we could plant extra trees. There's a lot of things we could do, and we will do if it's necessary. You can put screening up. As I just come back from the States, and I noticed a lot of them had the special screening around, and that would deflect a lot of the noise, I would think.
In addition to that, obviously you're talking about permanently modifying the courts. I'm certainly quite aware of that. Is it something that can be modified on a temporary basis? Because as soon as you modify the courts, we obviously know that tennis can't be played there, and I get that. And again, I'm for the diversity of sport, diversity of recreational opportunities. But is there something that you can do if there was a temporary measure that needed to be done to still be able to enjoy the sport, play the sport, but not resurface the courts? I just see, again, seeing a lot of things online, I see where they've taken tennis courts and modified them with different lines and those types of things. How would you address that if that was an option?
It would be an option, but for anybody playing the sport and anybody that's, I mean, there's very much professional plays, but to have tournaments, there are requirements to have tournaments. And so if you cross over with the tennis courts, you have lines that don't really line up very well. I mean, anything's doable, but to actually go like the 55 plus games, they would not accept that because you have to have certain parameters for the courts. So anything is doable, but it's not, we wouldn't recommend it. It's not a long-term deal to do.
Can I just say one thing? Like if we did put lines on the tennis courts and use their nets, we would only get 2 pickleball courts in. And our club, with 80 members, it just wouldn't suffice. Okay, so.
When we play on 4 courts at Prosecutor, we have way too many people for the 4 courts. We're playing in the base in the wintertime. We're using 6 courts out there, and we have people waiting to play, and we're growing on a weekly basis now. I can't even tell you what our membership is now because it is literally growing on a weekly basis. The more people hear about it, the more they like it. And everybody that comes out to play, we let people play a couple of times for free, and almost everybody joins after the
Thank you, Your Worship. That's it.
Any further questions from council? Councillor Buds?
Yeah, just so how do you deal with that growth? So this is a solution for now, and you just indicated that you had, you were waiting when you're current. So I anticipate the same type of situation happening. And if that growth continues to happen, what's next?
Well, first of all, like we usually play 2 mornings. What we have been playing is 2 mornings through the week and 2 evenings for the people that still have a job and work out. So it gives them a chance to play in the evenings. So we would extend that more evenings and more mornings, so that people could play at different times. And it's a terrible thing to have happen, but we would manage it, guaranteed. We would manage it somehow, have more active. We don't really want to do the weekend, just to have people that want to come out and play. So we wanted to make sure that they have their time. But in the hot heat of the day, lots of times we'll play at 8:30 in the morning till noon, so then the whole day is open too. So.
Councillor Draycott?
Thank you, Worship. Thank you very much for your presentation this evening. I guess I have 2 questions. What we're considering later on is the conversion of half of the existing tennis court into 6 pickleball courts. Is that correct?
That is right.
And again, I've heard you say a couple times that we play at this specific time, but if somebody has their own equipment or chooses to go to Stride, if that is the case, that we do set that up with the city, that it's open at all times, as long as noise requirements from city bylaws, like we're not expecting people to be there playing at 1 o'clock in the morning, obviously, but that it is open to the public for public use, as well as you would be expecting to have some sort of pickleball club schedule happen, where people would be open to attending at that time as well, if there was availability.
We would encourage that.
Okay. Any further questions? Councillor Knox?
Just a comment that I'd say congratulations on the growth of a club that size, because that's very impressive for a community our size. So I haven't played yet, but obviously something I should try someday.
Get you out.
So.
Any further questions or comments from council? Well, I want to thank all of you for coming out and educating us tonight, and there's probably a bunch of people that want to join up now. So thank you for the information.
Thank you.
The third one. Third one?
Good afternoon and good evening.
Good afternoon, and our second delegation this evening is from the Portage Tennis Club. So the delegation will present. The delegation has 5 minutes, and my staff have me on a timer, so it'll be 5 minutes pretty much exact. And then after the presentation, council will get a chance to ask questions. And can you state your name for the record, sir?
My name is Ferdy Van Dongen.
And the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Ferris and council members. It's a pleasure to be here and to speak to you on behalf of the tennis club. Our request is to not convert the tennis courts to pickleball courts. The Portage outdoor tennis facilities on Island Park are a well-known fixture and are enjoyed by many. The courts actually have a very good reputation, and people from surrounding communities come to play at our courts here in Portage. We have seen increased use of the tennis courts, especially in the last 3 years. We see people of all ages and various ethnic backgrounds, parents with children, teenagers, youth groups, young adults, and competitive and non-competitive players and seniors playing tennis. One reason why the courts are used by increased numbers is likely the fact that Portage is seeing a larger number of newcomers from other countries. They like to use the courts and enjoy a relaxed time with family and friends. I think what our point is that at this time of growth of Portage la Prairie, we need more sports services, not less. We have nothing against pickleball. In fact, I love playing pickleball myself. It's a real fun game. It's a real workout. But just not on these courts. Leave the courts alone, in the sense of leave them to be tennis courts and build pickleball courts elsewhere. It should also be noted that pickleball is a noisy sport, which is not desirable in a park, I would think. And then there's, of course, the parking issue. Park should be a quiet place. Tennis is a quiet, fairly quiet game, as long as the players are not howling too loudly. And in the case of pickleball, we think it would be better if it would be built on a dedicated pickleball court. If dedicated pickleball court would be built elsewhere. And I have here on my right Kelvin Laban. Kelvin is the president of the tennis club. Now, the tennis club is a fairly loosely organized organization or club because every time we approach people who say, hey, you want to join the tennis club, it costs you $60 per season, they'll look at me and say, really, $60? I can play tennis for free here. Why would I sign up? And so there's not that many. We don't have a large following, like I heard the pickleball group has, and I've been member of the pickleball club as well. I understand why, because they have to rent facilities to play pickleball. And in the case of tennis, anybody can play tennis in Portage la Prairie. It's beautiful. And the tennis courts, and just tell me when my time is up, because now I'm going on.
I'll give you the 30-second warning,
thanks.
sure.
Okay, so the tennis courts are really nice, nice tennis courts. If you look at other communities, we are blessed with these tennis courts. And I want to give credit to Kelvin here, who spends a lot of time maintaining those courts. He's there every day during the summer, during the season. And, we work, I help him sometimes. And we make sure that these tennis courts are in good shape, that the nets are at the right height, and that there's no debris on the floor. We've told some kids sometimes that you have to leave here. You can't be here with a skateboard, or we've even had people trying to use the courts for cricket practice, and we've had to tell them, you cannot do that here. You have to leave. So the service of these courts are very special. They're just excellent for tennis. And again, we see quite often all courts used in peak hours, evenings, weekends. Tennis is a lot of fun. And if you have any questions, please go ahead. This is what I would like to tell you. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Council, you had questions? Councillor Knox?
Sure. I just have some questions about when you're talking about your loose membership. So do you offer tennis lessons or tennis tournaments, that sort of thing? Like how do you cover, if you don't have many members, how do you cover costs, say if you had to replace a netting or that sort of thing?
Okay. The way we kind of have a mutual agreement with the city in that any major expenditures, like let's say if it was new lights, then, well, I think the last time the lights were replaced, it was a 50-50 agreement between the city and the tennis club. That was a couple of years ago. Any minor replacements, nets, for example, baseboards around the bottom of the railings, we take care of that. And I just wanted to verify that A single membership is actually $40, and a family membership or a couple is $60 per year.
And how many members
And-
do?
We have a small core group of 20 approximately core members, but a lot of players come out and hit the ball around in the evenings that don't join. They're not really interested in joining, whether it's because they're not serious about the game or whatever reason. Could be other reasons. But there, I would say, this is an approximate number. I spend a lot of time down there. So I would say there's approximately 200 people in Portage that play the game, like either dabble in it or serious about it, middle of the road, you know, whatever you have.
Yeah.
That's a rough estimate, but I
Sorry,
would say approximately 200.
I jumbled that all together, though. The first question was, do you offer lessons or tournaments,
thank
that
you.
sort of thing?
Yeah, thank you. Up until COVID, we were holding a series of 6 lessons in May and June. We try to finish them before the school's out. That was up until COVID hit. We have not had lessons since, but we intend to resume the lessons after this COVID, if this COVID. The tournaments. Yes, we used to hold tournaments. The number of people that were interested in tournaments in the last few years dwindled. They weren't really interested in playing tournaments, so we stopped the tournaments. But at one time, several years ago, there was both doubles and singles tournaments, and then it went to doubles only for a few years. And then lately, we have not held tournaments.
Thank you.
Mainly because because numbers, people get older.
That was your questions, Councillor Knox?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions from Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Your Worship, Mr. Loban, and of course, Mr. Van Dongen. Thank you much for the presentation. Just a couple of quick questions. One, of course, one comment, first of all, is that, of course, the courts belong to the city. We do understand that, but we certainly appreciate you maintaining them and doing the things that need to be done. Am I under the understanding there's no formal agreement right now with the city in relationship to how it's operated? It's a verbal agreement, or is there a formal agreement with the city?
I came here in 2009, and there was no formal agreement since I've been here in 2009.
So then my second question in relationship to that is to your club as well. I mean, no disrespect in any way, shape, or form, because I appreciate and admire what you guys do. And once again, I do vote on the diversity of recreational opportunities. But you mentioned that you're the president of the club. But who do you speak for if there's really no club? I mean, did
Yes,
all your
there is.
members,
Yes, there is a club.
you have a formal club that really has bylaws and membership, and all your members are voting the same way? Is that, I'm just trying to understand where this is coming from a formal
Yes,
club
we
perspective.
we have a paid membership, and we
Okay.
have a president, vice president, and secretary treasurer.
Okay,
Okay, and up until COVID, we were holding
sure.
meetings in the spring every year. The last 2 years, no, because we didn't get together because of COVID.
So then you had mentioned that you'd had 20 members. Right now is what your number is?
Well, we haven't
Is it-
started up yet for this season.
Okay,
But-
so how many members in your
Last
club
year.
right now?
I would say approximately 20.
20, okay. So have they all been consultated on this? Have they all agreed that you're speaking for every one of those 20 members?
For most of them, yes, yeah. Now,
But,
there was with the news release that came out this last few weeks about an agreement between the pickleball club and the tennis club, we are not in agreement with that because it wasn't signed with the membership as a whole even knowing about it, you know. So we are saying that any agreement between the two clubs up to now, to us, is null and void. Okay, because the membership was not consulted on that.
Okay, which just leads me to my further question. Just for clarification, all your members that you have of the club right now are unanimous in support of what you're here with tonight?
Well, we haven't talked to them all, but I would say a good percentage are.
Thank you. My very last question, if you don't mind, Your Worship. Is it something, if there ever was a resolution done by City Council to allow the modification of lines on the court, to allow both sports to be played without permanently modifying the courts the way they do it, is that something that the tennis club is in favor of? And I'm not saying they're going that way in any way, shape, or form, but is that something that you would consider?
It's not advisable because the back line of the pickleball court is very close to the service line of the tennis court. If you, I wish I had a diagram.
Oh, that's okay. No, I've Googled it as well. And I've seen many court designs that have both lines on them all the way throughout
It's
the
not a
United
good
States and
idea.
Canada.
Is not a good idea.
Okay.
Because the two lines are confusing. Like when a
Right.
tennis player is receiving a serve, it's so hard to tell whether the serve is in or out because you got two sets of lines very close together.
Right. And if they're different colors?
Well, they
I'm just asking the
Yep,
question.
mhm.
Yep.
They can be made different colors, or they
Okay.
can be made the same color. But it doesn't really matter because it's still a confusion between the lines because they're close together.
So your recommendation is just keeping them straight tennis courts?
Yeah.
All four of them?
The
Okay.
best situation is pickleball courts and tennis courts completely separated from each other. Sorry, from each other. Okay. Another thing, can I?
Did that answer your questions,
That
Councillor?
answered my question. That was good. Thank you, Your Worship.
Were there other questions from council?
Do I have a chance to?
No, your presentation is done, if that's the questions from council, but I want to thank all of you for coming out and educating us a bit on this issue tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move into public hearings. We'll open the public hearing for conditional use PC 17-22. This is for Simbi at 125 Saskatchewan Avenue East. Is there anyone here to speak to the hearing?
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Jake Birsambi, and I am here for a conditional use and a variance application for 125 Saskatchewan Avenue. And as I think you guys all seen the plans, we are proposing a mixed-use building that will include 21 residential units and 3 commercial, in total of 24 units. And then these will include 4 one-bedroom and 3 two-bedroom on each floor. Anybody have any questions?
Any questions from council? Okay, I don't see any.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of the request? Are there any letters in favor to be read out? Record?
No, there are no letters.
Thank you. Is there anyone present that would speak against the application? Are there any letters against the application to be read into the record?
No, there are no letters.
Okay, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
Be it resolved, and I so move, that the public hearing for conditional use, PC 17-22 for Sembi and Adonai, 125 Saskatchewan Avenue East, now be closed.
Moved by Counselor Meyer and seconded by Counselor Buds. All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried.
Okay, Council, in front of you just heard from the applicant. To the Planning and Economic Development Committee is a request for a conditional use for Jagbeer Sembi and Adeniran Alasugan Adenai for 125 Saskatchewan Avenue East, known as Lot 17, Block 1, Plan 1997. So the issue, as you heard the applicant say, is to allow for a dwelling, a multifamily above the first floor, and be a minimum of 37.2 square meters in floor area in a C2 central commercial zone. So the background is the applicant had applied for conditional use for, as I just mentioned, the application was circulated to various city departments. There have been no concerns. Public notices were sent to all property owners within a 100-meter radius, and as indicated, there was no objections or letter objections as well. So it's the administrative recommendation, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the conditional use application for Jagbeer Sembi and Adeniran Olusegun Adenai to allow for a dwelling multifamily above the first floor and be a minimum of 37.2 square meters in a C2 central commercial zone at the property of 125 Saskatchewan Avenue East, which is legally described as Lot 17, Block 1, Plan 1997 in the parish of Portage la Prairie.
Moved by Counselor Meyer and seconded by Counselor Buds. Any questions or comments on the motion?
Just like to add, Your Worship, that there was a sketch there that shows exactly the location of the request.
Any further comments or questions? All those in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you.
We'll open the public hearing for variation PC 18-22. This is for Simbi at 125 Saskatchewan Avenue East. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Did you want to speak to it or just answer questions?
Yes, yeah. I would answer any questions if you guys have.
Any questions from council? Okay. Is there any letters to be read into the record?
No, there are no letters.
Is there anyone present to speak against the application? Okay. Need a motion to close the public hearing?
Be it resolved, and I so move that the public hearing for variation PC 18-22 for Sembi and Adenai, 125 Saskatchewan Avenue East, now be closed.
Moved by Counselor Meyer and seconded by Counselor Buds. All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried.
Okay, Council, in front of you, you've got the second part to the applicant's request tonight. First of all, there is a sketch that does show exactly what the request is for and a Saskatchewan Avenue site plan for your reference. So this is a request for variation, so simply the applicant's applying to vary the following, taking parking stall requirements from 32 to 26, and then increasing the maximum access width of 10.7 meters to 29.4 meters on the north side of Howie, as well as increasing the maximum off-street access width from 10.7 meters to be increased to 36.128 meters on the south side of Howie. And once again, the sketch was there for your reference. So the background is discussed. That's what the applicant is applying for. There have been similar requests in the past, and those minute references are there for your reference as well. The building is in a C2, Central Commercial Zone. The application has been circulated to various city departments, and there have been no concerns. Public notices have been sent to all property owners within a 100-meter radius, and there's been no objection. So it's the administrative recommendation, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the variation request of Jagbeer Sembi and Adeniran Olusegun Adenai to vary the following. A, parking stall requirements of 32 stalls to be reduced to 26 parking stalls. B, off-street parking area maximum access width of 10.7 meters to be increased to 29.49 meters on the north side of Howie. And C, off-street parking area maximum access width of 10.7 meters to be increased to 36.128 meters on the south side of Howie. That's at the property known as 125 Saskatchewan Avenue East, which is legally described as Lot 17, Block 1, Plan 1997 in the parish of Portage la Prairie.
Moved by Councillor Meyer and seconded by Councillor Buds. Any questions or comments on the motion? Councillor Draycott?
Just a comment on the project in general. It's exciting to see something happening in this space, and congratulations to the applicant, and good luck with your project.
Thank you very much. We are as excited as well. I know this land has been vacant for a while, so I think it'd be very exciting to see something coming up new here.
Any, Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Your Worship. And as Chair of Economic Development and City Planning, I too just want to echo Councillor Draycott's comments. It's really good to see the investment into Portage and obviously taking an area that we have downtown that's been vacant for such a long period of time and turning it into something that falls within that C2 range. So I would be supporting the motion.
Any further questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried.
Thank you.
We'll move right into committee. First up is Finance, Legislative and Property Committee. Councillor Buds, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Your committee has nothing to report. Few items in new business, but nothing at this time.
Thank you. City Planning and Economic Development. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. City Planning and Economic Development Committee has nothing to report at this point in the agenda.
Thank you. And Community Services Committee. Councillor Draycott.
Thank you, Your Worship. Nothing for community services at this moment in the agenda.
And Waterworks Committee. Councillor Draycott.
And thank you again. Nothing for the Waterworks Committee at this moment as well.
Thank you. And Transportation Committee, tonight Councillor Meyer for Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Nothing in the Transportation Committee on the agenda tonight.
Thank you. And Public Safety Committee, Councillor Knox.
Thank you, Your Worship. Nothing from public safety at this time.
Thank you. We have no deferred business. We have a number of items of new business. The first item of new business is the Portage Pickleball Club Use Agreement. This is Finance, Legislative and Property Committee. Councillor Buds.
Thank you, Your Worship. And as you'd mentioned, it is the review of possible agreement with the Portage Pickleball Club. And we did hear the delegations from both sides here tonight. And so this is the item for our discussion and decision here tonight. So just some background. Back in 2021 in December, the Portage Pickleball Club approached the city regarding the use of a portion of the Island Park Tennis Club for pickleball. And at that time, they did obtain a signed agreement from the Portage Tennis Club to repurpose the two Northside tennis courts to accommodate pickleball. And so there has been a long-standing verbal agreement for the facility maintenance with the tennis club, but there has been no formal agreement in place that exists. So as we heard tonight, the tennis club has been doing minor repairs, and then we've been co-funding some of the larger ones. So the agreement, if you will, in terms of the signature of converting it, is an item of contention between the two clubs, but that is something that we need to decide on whether or not our asset, being those courts, that we're interested in having them repurposed. So again, just that request is for 2 tennis courts to be repurposed into 6 pickleball courts. They are 2 different sports. The club is required to bear all costs and liabilities to change these courts, and they've been working on fundraising and have got a considerable amount of money apparently already raised. And I think we heard tonight around $30,000 towards a $50,000 quote to convert that. Recently, other members of the Portage Tennis Club, as we know, have voiced their concerns and made those aware to us here tonight. With all that in mind, though, it is the recommendation, and I so move, that the Council City of Portage la Prairie approve the use agreement with the Portage Pickleball Club to repurpose the 2 north courts on the Island Park tennis courts at their own cost. So that is the recommendation, and I do move.
Moved by Councillor Buds and seconded by Councillor Meyer. Questions or comments on the motion? Councillor Draycott.
I think that I would comment that we heard from Pickleball a long time ago when I first started out on council, I think, and they had asked if they could use Prosecutor Park at that point in time, and we opened that up to them. And I appreciate that they've grown their club so much from that particular use and found other places that they could use as well to grow their sport in our community. I think it's a fast-growing sport in our community, and I'm excited for everything that they have on the go. But I do recognize that there would be some concerns with parking at Prosecutor Park as well. I know that there's a small green space there, and there are people that use the basketball courts, and there's been some refurbishment over the years as well for basketball there. but I don't know that pickleball really fits there at this moment anymore. And I know that there are tennis courts that have existed around the city as well. I know schools have them. I think Prosecutor was a tennis court before it was a basketball court or a pickleball court as well. So I know that it's changing in our community as well. And I think it's good for us to look at this and decide if there's a way to coexist, or if there's a new possibility to have a court somewhere else or a complementary court in the area. There's a lot of questions that we probably need to answer as a council this evening. So I was excited to hear from both memberships this evening, and yeah, looking forward to some conversation here so we can make a good decision.
Councillor Draycott, Councillor Budge, you had a comment or question?
Yeah, I've been made aware of this, this development and the growth of pickleball for a number of years. Fully support the endeavor from the pickleball club, notwithstanding acknowledging that anytime that there's a change, there will be concern. However, when you look at the upside potential of what another investment in recreation in our community would look like, I think it is a worthwhile investment, and it's one that is bringing the community together. They've raised a lot of funds already, and it'll be exciting to see where this goes. As I mentioned in the questions, we may be faced with having to look at increasing the surface court area for court sports in the future, but right now I fully support what the pickleball club wants to do, this agreement and the refurbishing of those courts. I think it's a great thing for Portage.
Other questions or comments on the motion? Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. I came here tonight fully prepared to support the request for the agreement for the pickleball club. But last week, I had a number of conversations with a number of individuals, and it did make me second guess my thoughts a little bit. But what I do want to say is that after hearing the answers to the questions, and I really sincerely believe that the club would take what steps they need to do in order to appease some of the situations that would be maybe arise, whether it be sound or issues at that point in time. I've never played the sport. One of these days I maybe have to try it, but I was again satisfied with their answers on how they would address that. And at this point in time, unless I hear something different, I'm fully in favor of supporting it. I do want to mention again, and I've probably said it a few times, I'm not here to create division. I'm here to help create diversity of recreational opportunities that we have within the city of Portage la Prairie. And I think maybe it's the flavor of the month, but I think it's a good time to act on it and to move forward. And I don't think it's the wrong place. So thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Meyer. Councillor Knox?
Yeah, I just have more of a comment, and I have gone back and forth on this for the last couple of weeks, just gathering all the information, and I do appreciate the passion of both groups for sure. But you really do hear the growth of pickleball. They say the fastest growing sport in Canada, but from what I understand, it's the fastest growing sport in North America. What I hope is from this is that if we do approve this tonight, that these two groups can learn to maybe work together a little bit on events and membership and that sort of thing as well. Maybe both of these clubs would grow a little. I mean, pickleball is growing pretty fast, but maybe it would help the tennis club grow a little bit as well. I like the idea of them talking about renting out equipment or borrowing equipment at the PRRA Stride Place. Maybe something the tennis club could start doing as well, so that both of these sports could grow. So, thank you.
Councillor Draycott?
Sorry, just thinking on that a little bit. I did want to actually talk about the sound, because I can't say that I've sat there and watched a pickleball game. I don't know how loud it is, but I have walked through the park. It's one of our evening activities that we do as a family quite often during the week and on the weekend, and it's not unusual to have kids screaming in the playground that is just 100 feet to the north, because it's incredibly exciting. We've got great facilities there. It's not unusual to hear music coming from the island water facility, or kids screaming and having a great time there as well. I don't think that, I understand that there's possible issues with the noise factor. I know you brought that up, Councillor Meyer, this evening. But I actually think that the park is probably a better place for that to happen than in the residential area or anywhere else that we might possibly be looking at outside of Island Park. There is some residents there, but but it's not unusual to have activity happening in that area in the evening and on the weekend, and it's not unusual for that activity to be really noisy, and it's good noise. I think it's really good noise. It's different than noise, confusion, and angst that we've experienced in other parts of our city when people have been looking at progressing or changing facilities. This is good noise. So I don't have as many qualms about that. I can't believe that other communities are looking at that as far as lawsuits go. That just kind of boggles my mind. But I think that this is probably a good place for it, somewhere on the island at least.
And for, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. And Councillor Jaycott, thank you so much for bringing that up. And I did want to address it. I've never actually seen a pickleball game, so I have no idea what the sound is or isn't. All it's done is I've heard it from people, and I've heard it when I read some of the issues, when you look at some of the negativities. But what I strongly believe is, whether it's an issue or not, is I do believe that if it does become an issue, that the club is prepared to deal with what they can do in their thing to try to deaden the sound a little bit. I know there's very minimal residential housing, but there still is residential housing around there. So I just wanted to recognize that portion of it as well. But thank you so much for bringing that up, Councillor Draycott.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Draycott.
Sorry. I guess question for administration. We heard tonight that there's just a verbal agreement in terms of the tennis court, and we're looking at having this agreement be put into place for use for pickleball. Are we looking at having a in-paper agreement put in place for the tennis club as well?
Through your worship to Councillor Draycott, it's definitely something administration could pursue. I think when we're ever changing a physical asset for the use of one group, we're looking to formalize that. So, for example, with the tennis club, if we had an agreement that was clear in writing and we knew what both parties expected going into it, it would maybe give better direction to council on this. I think it's just an effort of the city to formalize our agreement with these recreational groups, and there's many in many different areas. Every time we can make a formal agreement, then future councils can see what past councils committed to. In terms of verbal agreements, the tennis club was absolutely right. When there's issues at the tennis court, they reach out to operations. Operations works with them to resolve minor maintenance issues. And then there's been one larger physical lighting issue that bordered on a safety issue that we work with them to solve. So it has been informal and it has been verbal. And I would definitely, depending on council's decision, pursue the tennis club to formalize that agreement, and I would definitely be willing to bring that to council for ratification as well.
Further questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Next, I have new business is the variation extension for PC 16-22. This is for Melco Developments Limited. This is for 33, 77, 79, and 81 Melco Drive. This is City Planning and Economic Development. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council, in front of you simply is an extension of something that we've already approved. It's to allow for an extension to vary the front yard requirement of 7.5 meters to be reduced to 6, and that is to allow for larger rear yards. So back in April the 12th of 2021, there was an extension to the original variation order, which was passed by the resolution. The variation order and drawings certainly are attached there for your reference. So we have the option, the Planning Act does state that a variance order will expire and cease to have any effect if it's not acted upon within 12 months of the date of decision. A board, council, or planning commission may extend the deadline for an additional period not longer than 12 months if the application is received before the initial deadline. My understanding is that it has been. And as per the attached original variation order on this matter, administratively, there are no concerns with the application for an extension to the original variation order, and as such, they would recommend approval. With that said, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the request of Melco Developments Limited to extend the original variation order, which was PC 12-21 at the properties on 33, 79, 77, and 81 Melco Drive, which are legally described as Lot 31, Lot 7 to 9, Block 1, Plan 53601 in the parish of Portage la Prairie.
Moved by Councillor Meyer and seconded by Councillor Buds. Any questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Next item of new business is the award tender for Biosolids land application. This is Waterworks Committee. Councillor Draycott, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. As stated this evening, we do have to award the contract for the 2022 land application of Biosolids for the Water Pollution Control Facility as per tender 22 OPS 010. So the tender for the land application of Biosolids for the Water Pollution Control Facility was posted on Merrick's website as well as on the City of Portage la Prairie website on February 24th, 2022, with submissions due on March 29th, 2022. This work involves the removal, transportation, and land application of approximately 900 dry tons of biosolids material from the biosolids storage tanks, the low-rate anaerobic, I can't say it tonight, anaerobic reactor, and the bulk volume fermenter. 7 copies of the tender were requested and 1 bid was received. The bid was evaluated and scored according to qualifications and experience, substantial sustainability factors, and price. The points were awarded as follows. Assiniboine Injectors was 99 points at $375,750 net of GST. The 2022 budget for land application of biosolids includes $380,000 for disposal of industrial pretreatment and secondary sludge. As the contract makes no assurances to the total amount removed, the contractor is paid per dry ton removed. Assiniboine Injectors has successfully performed this work for the City of Portage la Prairie for over 20 years. They are familiar with the facility, have a good rapport with the local farmers, and are accommodating regarding schedule. Therefore, it is the administrative recommendation that the Council of City of Portage la Prairie award the contract for the land application of biosolids for 2022 to Assiniboine Injectors Limited for a total contract price of $375,750 net of GST, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Draycott and seconded by Councillor Knox. Any questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Next item and our final item of old business is the second and third reading of the use of municipal resources in an election. This is bylaw 22-8734. This is Finance Committee. Councillor Buds.
Thank you. And as mentioned, this is our second and third reading of this bylaw. Just as a reminder, the Municipal Act did require every municipality to pass a bylaw like this. And our bylaw states that during a 42-day period before an election, candidates have restricted access use of resources owned or controlled by the municipality, such as the property, facilities, infrastructure, equipment, websites, social media accounts, and other communication tools or media. And candidates who contravene will receive a written warning for the first offense and a fine of $100 for all subsequent offenses. So it is the recommendation of your committee, and I so move that the use of municipal resources in election bylaw 22-8734 be given second reading.
Moved by Councillor Buds and seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried.
And that the use of municipal resources in election bylaw 22-8734 be read a third time, finally passed, signed, and sealed.
Moved by Councillor Buds and seconded by Councillor Meyer. All those in favor of the motion? And that's carried. So that concludes our business for council. Council is adjourned at 6:59 p.m. and we're going to move right into committee. And just a reminder, committee is actually open to the media and it's open to the public. And we'll call committee to order at 6:59 p.m. First up is the Finance, Legislative and Property Committee. Councillor Buds.
Thank you, Your Worship. Your committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. And City Planning and Economic Development. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. City Planning and Economic Development Committee has nothing on committee tonight.
And Community Service Committee, Councillor Draycott.
Thank you, Your Worship. Community Services has nothing this evening. However, as our youth member of council is here, if there's anything that she would like to add for us this evening, any updates or activities going on?
Now that restrictions have lifted, me and our guidance counselor and our social support group are talking about planning an event sometime soon before June. And we were also thinking of finding a day where most of council could come to the school, just so like students are able to ask questions or make comments on stuff that they think should happen for Portage. And we're also going to start to conduct a survey that we've recently made just to see everyone's thoughts about different issues in Portage regarding the youth and see their opinions and make them heard. Thank you.
Perfect. Please keep us in the loop as to when your plans are coming into effect, and we will do our best to accommodate that. And that's all I have this evening, Your Worship, for Community Services.
Thank you. And Waterworks Committee, Councillor Draycott.
Thank you, Your Worship. Nothing for the Waterworks Committee this evening.
And Transportation Committee, Councillor Meyer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Transportation Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee, Councillor Knox.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm a little surprised I have to read this message this time of year, but we're better to be prepared than surprised, as we may have been in the past. So a winter storm watch has been issued for a major spring blizzard that will bring 30 to 50 centimeters of snow, accompanied by winds gusting 70 to 90 kilometers an hour, giving zero visibility at times in snow and blowing snow. The snow will start early Tuesday evening near the international border, then push northward through the night. By Wednesday morning, heavy snow will be falling in our area. Travel is expected to become increasingly difficult throughout the day on Wednesday and into Thursday, with widespread highway closures, likely heavy snow, and strong winds continue. Travel is not recommended, as this storm has the potential to be the worst blizzard in decades. Conditions should begin to improve on Friday as the wind tapers off and the heaviest snow moves into northern Ontario. Power outages are likely, and we encourage everyone to prepare ahead of time by stocking up on needed supplies such as drinking water, food, medicine, a first aid kit, battery-operated flashlights, infant formula, pet food, etc. Be prepared to be self-sufficient for at least 72 hours. Snow removal will begin with priority routes to emergency services, hospitals, personal care homes, etc. We ask that you please be patient. Please continue to monitor alerts and forecasts issued by Environment Canada. The City of Portage la Prairie will provide updates as necessary on our social media pages and through our emergency notification system, Connect Portage. Thank you, Your Worship. Stay safe.
That's, yeah, I didn't think I'd be hearing that in April, but thank you for the warning. I know our administration we've all learned a lot from the events 2.5 years ago at Thanksgiving. And I don't think it was mentioned, but it's also a good idea to fill up your gas tanks. If there's no hydro, the gas pumps don't work. And also filling up your wallets with a bit of cash, because sometimes the ATMs don't work. Some financial institutions, some they may not. So just a reminder. Any other comments or any other reminders from members of council on the report from Public Safety?
Just one comment is that I think people should be prepared but not panicked. We want to make sure that things are still on the shelf for everybody who needs it. So 72 hours is what we're looking at, not a long extended period of time.
Okay, so they don't need a month's worth of food.
No.
Okay. Well, seeing no more comments, committee is adjourned at 7:04 p.m. Thank you for coming out, everybody.